Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J More Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, drop your comments and questions for my guest or myself into the comment box, and you'll see me check from time to time. Today's guest is world travel spice master chef Lior Lev Sercarz, founder of Boite global brand spices for both professional chefs, culinary enthusiasts, and also the home cook. He is author of numerous winning cookbooks, The Art of Blending, Mastering Spice, The Spice Companion, A Middle Eastern Pantry. He's a restaurateur. He has a restaurant called Spice Brothers Restaurant, which is a fast casual shawarma restaurant on St. Mark's Place in Manhattan. And within the year, New York Times listed it as one of the city's best sandwiches. Let's bring in Lior. There he is.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to talk spices with you because I do have a little bit of knowledge and I love to cook. So I think those are two qualifying reasons why I should be chatting with you and letting people know more about you. You grew up in Israel, grew up on a kibbutz. Can you tell me what food was like there? Was it more a communal table every night, or were there individual family tables? Tell me more.
Yeah, grew up in a kibbutz in the Galilee, Upper Eastern Galilee, beautiful region. Communal dining hall, kids, adults, breakfast, lunch, dinner, around big tables. I even grew up in a model where all of the kids slept in one house, depending on your group age. So we also had a little dining room over there. Food, it depends. Wasn't the best necessarily. However, great street food in the city nearby. So if we were able to go a few times a week, get some shawarma or falafel, but also a lot of just like outdoor cooking, as kids, making a campfire, cooking some potatoes, going fishing and grilling some fish.
What was I mean, I know the food was sort of, as I've read about what you said, it's sort of brown food. There wasn't anything too brightening in the food. Um, what was that defining moment where you knew food was your passion and that was the path you were going to take?
I think growing up in this environment where, you'd go out of the home where you lived and there was a river, I could go fishing. There were berries in season, then there was fruit. So we'd always, ride a bike or ride a horse and go kind of, back then foraging was not a term or not. So
Right.
we were foraging as kids, and as for as long as I can remember, I was always kind of like in a kitchen or trying to do something or at a kid's level, obviously. I think later on when my family left the kibbutz and my mom was working late hours, I volunteered to just help with making lunch for my sisters and then also helping with dinner. And I think that's kind of when I got my first cookbook and really got excited about this whole notion of cooking.
Right. The your your father has a olive orchard now, am I correct?
That's right. Yeah, my parents have a farm in the Galilee where they grow figs and olives, mainly olives. There's a couple of other trees, but the main crops are olives for olive oil.
And I did I see somewhere you're doing something with your father with caviar?
We did in the past. There are two caviar farms in the Galilee, which is kind of strange when you don't really think of Israel as a caviar producer.
Right.
But some phenomenal caviar that's sold worldwide, including the US. And so at some point we had a little fun project with one of them of doing a special seasoning where the caviar was cured with it, and it went very well for a while, and then they decided to move on to something else. But it was a fun project.
Well, I'm sure with spices, you've been involved with many of the numerous chefs in New York and worldwide and working with them. Let's talk about Eric Repair. You're in some project with Jean-Georges Varganichen. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. What are you doing there? I know it's in New York. It's something out on the pier.
Yeah, so we at La Boite, we have great relationships with chefs and pastry chefs and chocolate makers and people in the culinary world all over, even outside of the US. And occasionally this relationship becomes into a partnership where we would come up together with some unique blends inspired by that person, their restaurant, their style of food. So both with the two examples that you gave with Eric Ripper and Jean-Georges Vongerichten, over the years, we started thinking of different blends. Some of them they were using in a restaurant, and we kind of brought them to life so that other people can enjoy them. In some cases, they're brand new and they're based on their world travel, their childhood memories. And it's a lot of fun as somebody who was in a kitchen for 30 years or over 30 years to now be on the other side, if you will, and being part of their everyday work around the world and coming up with these blends because we have a great conversation. Our goal is to make food better. So
Right.
yes, we make spice blends at La Boite, but at the end of the day, they're being used in cooking. So we got to think of how they're going to work.
Right. Your world travel, you studied culinary, was it Paul Bocuse's
That's right.
culinary school in France?
Yep, that's right.
And then you went from there to New York.
Yep,
Yep.
I did a 2-year program in Lyon, France, the Paul Bocuse Institute, which grew to be much, much bigger in the last few years, and stayed overall 5 years in France before moving to New York in 2002 and joining Daniel Zboulou's kitchen for about nearly 7 years before I moved on to start the spice company.
Right. And you studied with Olivier Bollinger,
Yep.
who is a 3 Michelin star chef, and he got you. Is that where you got started in the spices? Wasn't he
Yeah, I
involved?
really, got to give, which I do all the time, give Olivier Rollinger and his team credit for kind of launching this excitement of this idea of spices. I've, cooked with spices. I grew up in Israel. I went to the market. So spices were not new, but the way that he was approaching his cuisine and cooking and the sourcing of the spices and applying them into a more modern French, mainly seafood-based menu was fascinating. And so he really became a mentor and somebody that, really inspired me. And many years later, after, leaving his restaurant in his beautiful town of Cancale, I came to the realization that this is maybe something that I would like to pursue that will allow me to connect to way more people than just the 100 or 200 people that I was lucky enough to feed a night. And now thousands and thousands of home cooks around the country and hundreds of chefs. And it's really humbling, rewarding, and gratifying all of that at the same time to be in so many kitchens every day.
Right. And you started La Boite in 2006.
Yeah.
And you're using single origin spices. Some the small producers can't supply. And then you're doing the blends. And as we chatted before we went on the air, I worked for Van Spices for about 5 years. So she started her business 43 years ago when there was never a blend to be found. And that's what was the basis. And having these blends, it's a gift to consumer and to chefs to have a quality product. And what you do, and people, it's the website will come up on here because we're saying Laboite, but it's LABOITE NYC. The I'm trying to see something here. Okay, technology. So the blended spices, you offer out numerous recipes for your blends. And I think congratulations is in order for you. The New York Times just said your OMG spice was the top item to, one of the items on their gift list. Tell people about OMG.
Yeah, OMG, which stands for onion, mustard, garlic, and happens to be a catchy name, was created probably 10, 12 years ago. I was working with a young chef who was trying to come up with a seasoning for a hot dog. So something that he could sprinkle on a cooked hot dog and then put in the bun. So we started talking about the garlic and the onion and maybe the mustard. He never used it for his hot dogs, but I'm glad I created the blend because it since then became one of our most popular blends. And as you mentioned, the New York Times added it to their holiday gift guide, which we're very honored to be there, and definitely makes a huge impact on the sales and what we do. It's a very versatile blend, whether you're roasting vegetables, whether you're cooking a chicken, even some white fish could work very well. So a very friendly, user-friendly blend with lots of applications.
Well, let's see. I can see it. It's heresy here in Baltimore. You could definitely use it for a crab cake.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. I'm, a big fan of anything crab, whole crabs, crab cakes, whatever. Definitely could work really well.
Right. I had a huge crab cake yesterday. I was gifted from Coco's here in Baltimore, which is considered the best crab cake. But their crab cakes are 11 ounces, and the reason it was 11 ounces because that's all the mother could hold making the crab cakes when she started doing it.
Oh,
So they gifted me a crab cake, so it's on the brain. You're basically, you're on a mission. Let's talk about for cookbooks, which were really all spice based, um, and informing people. So you're on a mission for people to learn more about spices and have a better understanding and why they should, tell them why they should be using the spices.
yeah. I mean, the reason that, we started La Boite was to bring awareness to people who cook, whether they're professionals, home cooks, to have a better tool. I mean, I really see spices as a tool, same way that you'd want to have a good knife and a good pot and a good cutting board. They really bring so much value to your food, and unfortunately, a lot of people have no idea what they're even using and how fresh it is and where it's coming from, and or simply what it tastes like. So a lot of time people just avoid using or don't use at all certain spices just because they don't know. And nobody teaches you. There's no real school for spices. It's not something that you're just gonna take a bite of necessarily, like and know what it tastes like. So this is what led us to start La Boite. It's still part of our mission, is really this education portion of knowing what they are, how to use them, where they're from, making the right choice of quality, price, and beyond that, really, having fun in the kitchen. Whether you're cooking something complicated, whether you're just sprinkling a little something on something that you reheated, which is prepared, and I'm totally okay with that. If you don't have time or you don't enjoy the actual labor of cooking and you just want to jazz it up a little bit with a little blend or a little single spice, I'm totally fine with that.
Well, that's the beauty of these blends because you have somebody who has a great, I go sense of smell because that's more important than the sense of taste because you get so much more. Um, they're creating this. When I work for Vans, a lot of the times I would just be tasting the spices and the blends to get the flavor and get the aroma. And just to let people know that, you have 4 books. One was 2023, but The Art of Blending, The Spice Companion, Mastering Spice, and then that was a New York Times book review, Best Cookbook of the Year. So everything, go to labotteny.com, everything that you want to reach out and get, and do that. Now, you said somewhere that people, because whole spices, we see the old times use a mortar and pestle, not to use a mortar and pestle, but to use a spice grinder. Why? Why do you prefer that?
I think, mortar and pestles are great. The thing is that some spices are hard to grind, so it's really takes a lot of hard work, and you might not even get to that fine grinding degree that you're looking for. And if you want to do it, by all means, be my guest. Also, if you're doing large quantities, it's even harder. So, as much as I love mortar and pestle, and they're great for many paste preparations and sauces, and it's definitely a good thing to have in your kitchen, a small coffee grinder would do the work just fine, easy to use, super easy to clean. Um, and then, and it's faster. So you could just, move on to the next thing, and there's nothing wrong with it. Your food is still going to be delicious. Nobody's going to you know,
No, that
you know,
right.
hunt you down for the fact that you didn't really use a mortar. And I would add to it that I always recommend, if you don't have the energy and time to grind your own spices, buy them ground. As long as the quality is good, that should not be a barrier from you using them.
Correct, correct. I was noticing, just people bear with me because I had so many notes and so many questions to come up. I notice Labatt has 2 different kinds of Szechuan peppercorns. You have a red and another. Um, what is the difference between the 2?
So we carry both a green and a red. And in terms of, like, it's not even heat, but the numbness level of it, they're both kind of equally the same. The big difference is really that the green has much more brightness to it and some floral notes to it, and the red is a bit deeper. So
Right?
those are kind of the two small nuances between one and the other.
Terrific. I just have little questions, and I'm going to talk cinnamon now with you. I
Sure.
see that you sell cinnamon buds, buds. That's new for me to see. And cinnamon's a topic where most consumers don't realize when they're buying cinnamon in the store, they're buying cassis rather than true cinnamon or Vietnamese cinnamon. Um, and, we've had a controversy come up about cinnamon and the quality of it and the dangers of it too, and where it's being sourced. And um, I know in my day when I was at Vans that when the spices came in, they came in and they were graded. And some spices had to go through metal detectors. There's a lot to what comes in and getting quality and being protected. So I just jumped around. So let's talk cinnamon buds. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I,
So quite a unique product. Most people know cinnamon as the bark. A lot of people don't even know that cinnamon is a bark of a tree, but it is. That's then either sold as the dry bark rolled onto itself as a cinnamon stick or ground into powder, different origins, different qualities. We've discovered the buds, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago through one of our suppliers and vendors. It's not an item that is mass produced or harvested, let's put it that way. It is really fun. I always compare it to kind of a cinnamon chewing gum. It's very strong, but it does have some acid to it and some brightness to it. And so I think it's a fun ingredient to grind or infuse if you're braising something or steeping something. There's also, I'm sorry, cinnamon leaves, which are we don't really carry them. We have some here as like fun samples to show people, but we just thought it would be fun to feature another part of the cinnamon plant that's very tasty and could really bring a lot to your dishes. And then in terms of the cinnamon, we work with, cassia, which is what most people use. We also use canela, which is from Sri Lanka, or soft stick cinnamon, and then Vietnamese. And all of those can come in a whole form or in a ground form. They're part. And the last but not least is our smoked cinnamon, which is basically cinnamon sticks that we smoke in a cold smoke process and then grind them into powder where, they bring a nice savory, smoky note to desserts and sweets, or they add a nice sweetness to savory dishes. So we use them
Like
both ways. Yeah,
like barbecue would be
sure.
great.
Yeah. Mhm.
Absolutely. Um, let's see. Lisa Sirota Garwood wants to know, will the brick and mortar open soon?
The short answer is we don't have an exact date. We are working on kind of revising a bit the layout of that store that was open for over 12 years. And we did some renovation, and we are hoping that in 2025, at some point, we will be able to reopen it.
At some point, I read that you feel like spices create memories. And I guess
Yeah.
it's like anything like the family table. Can you explain one of your spice memories?
Um, Yeah, I think for me, again, visiting as a young child, the market in Tel Aviv, the Levinsky market, and many, many years before I even knew that one day this would become my profession. I think spices, the same way that other things that you smell, food, different cities, different places, plants, it's all recorded, whether you like it or not, in your brain. And once you start understanding when you saw it and who you were with and what exactly happened, then you can understand why this happened. And I think, like you said earlier, that the first thing that you're going to get is the smell. I sometimes ship things from here to people. I was like, I love getting packages from La Boite because before I even open them, the box itself smells because it's sitting in our warehouse. And as much as the spices are tied up in sealed boxes and with bags, and they will find a way. Or as the minute you open the bag, the whole room, even people who walk down the street, like, oh, I love that. Kind of like you walk next to a bakery or pastry store, that you have that same thing. So those are the memories. I think it's also part of being in the kitchen and cooking and then sitting around the table with family and friends or going out to restaurant. Yeah, those are the great memories.
Right. Well, being from Baltimore, McCormick, Baltimore Spice, um, there were times that you could, even if you're out, you could smell the spices from the factories permeating the air. And after being at Vines for 5 years, no matter what you did, you brought it home with you. It was on your
Oh yeah.
clothes, in your car, but it was a good scent. It was a good scent. Um, I enjoyed, and we sort of touched on it. You have two young boys, and I saw that you did a video for Food 52 with the two boys making challah. And just want to thank you because Jay Moore's Contemporary Jewish Living here in Baltimore, you sent a recipe down for a challah recipe. Everybody was up for Rosh Hashanah. So you can go to Jay Moore's recipes and find that holiday challah recipe. Well, what great fun. Do you, as a family, celebrate Shabbos every Friday? It looks like I see that you're making challah. Are you doing it every Friday for Shabbos or just whenever?
I used to bake challahs more. Because of work and here at La Boite at the restaurant, so it's sometimes I get home late on a Friday. I try whenever I can, but it's definitely not every weekend. We light candles, and that's pretty much the extent of what we do on a regular basis. But as soon as we can or have the opportunity, we do it, and the kids are always excited to get in the kitchen and help as much as they can and braid to the best of their ability, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
It was such an adorable video, and your patience was wonderful. And one son was 3, one was 5. I don't know, was that 2 years ago? Or they
Oh,
isn't
it's
one?
more than that. They're 9 and 11.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so they still love that video and they're very proud of it. They tell everybody that they were on TV and
Okay, everybody just find it, Chef Lior Lev Sercarz video, Food 52. You have to see it. It's adorable with the two of them making the challah. Um, I mean, we have things coming up now, shortages. Was it mustard seeds that there was some problem with? Um, and I'm trying to think, I'm going to go back. Most spices are grown in areas within 15 degrees of the equator. But there was a spice that grew up north, and I couldn't remember from my old brain what that spice might be. What grows more north in the cold areas? I don't know why I was
so
thinking.
concrete example, you mentioned mustard. So mustard, most of the mustard in the world comes from Canada. The same way that coriander seeds, obviously there's also Indian, but we get our mustard from Canada. So things can grow up north in colder weather, and they grow very well. And then, obviously, most of the other things grow in warmer climates, in India, Indonesia, even though there's great production in Turkey. So also great culture and agriculture of cumin and caraway and sumac. So, and things again like coriander that grow very well in Eastern Europe,
Right.
some peppers for paprika or pimenton in Spain. And so there are some crops that definitely do well in different climates.
I want to touch on your restaurant, Spice Brothers, where you're doing shawarma and falafel. And I'm trying to think if did I not put it down here? There was an item that goes on your shawarmas, and it's something, was it a mango pickle?
I mean, a lot of the shawarma places or falafel places back home or even around here use a condiment or a sauce called amba, which is made with pickled mango with some turmeric and some salt. So it's if you can imagine something like a mango chutney, if you will, just in a form of a sauce. So it has also a lot of fenugreek in it, so it's quite pungent and really delicious.
Well, I remember there was something on there that I hadn't heard of, so I was looking things up. Like I said, I went down the rabbit hole. I start checking you out so much. I'm, s- you know, I don't know what it means to anybody else or you, but just so impressed with everything that you've done and making these items available to the home cooks. Obvious during COVID, people got more into cooking. And did you see a growth spurt? I know it sounds stupid. Obviously, supplies were hard to come by, but because people were getting more into cooking, did you find a spurt in the blended spices?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the uh, the online store, which we've had for many years and we still have, definitely kept us alive during COVID, knowing that all of our restaurant accounts for at least a few months were all totally shut down. They started reopening slowly, but we had an incredible growth when it came to online sales. People were home, people were cooking more. We also launched back then, we were doing a daily email blast with some recipes and really created this great following and community of La Boite members who are still with us and still follow us. We at this point do one email a week with recipes and cooking tips and some events and product highlights. But I cooked a lot and I shared it, whether it's on social media back then or during our newsletters, and it was really great to create this community and got some really good feedback from people how much they enjoy following the recipes, making some of them, using spices. So try to make the most of it.
And you've been involved with the New York City Wine and Food event. Um, so that was just in October. I know 2023 you did a dinner with Daniel.
Yep.
2024, did you do another dinner with him? What were you doing? And were you the one that rang the bell at this?
Yeah, so New York Food and Wine Festival, that's run by Lee Schrager and his amazing team for many, many years. So we were honored and had the pleasure to participate in a few of them. This year, we did one big event in Brooklyn, a big tasting event in Brooklyn, which was the Bobby Flay triple dance party. We were like, I think, 40 or 50 different chefs and restaurants. And so we did that, and that was a lot of fun. We also got to go with Lee and his team to ring the bell at the NASDAQ. I didn't push the button. I was next to him, but it was still
close,
a fun
close
event
enough.
to be at. Yeah, close enough. Yeah.
Close enough. That's great. Um, I know that you have a busy schedule, and I have no idea what's on your plate today to do, but I'm going to come down to the last questions, and I thank you again for being on the show. Um, if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Ooh, travel more, learn as many languages as you can, and really develop as many relationships as you can on a personal and business level. It will prove, and just keep an open mind. It's great to have an idea, but it's also good to be open to other things along the way. So I think that the overall is just exposing yourself to the world, literally by traveling or just by reading. And the good thing about the internet and the media nowadays, that you can get so much information from a mobile device or a computer. So there's no reason not to learn more and be curious about what's out there.
Okay. What's the best bite you've had all week?
Ooh, best bite all week. Let's think about it. I had a really nice pizza, which occasionally makes me very happy. I don't need much more than that. And I'm trying to think. I also had a really good. I'm lucky enough to have my neighbor is Jim Leahy from Sullivan Street Bakery, and he makes incredible bread and baked goods, and I had his mozzarella and prosciutto sandwich on a sesame baguette, and I could eat that all day, every day. It's so delicious.
Okay. Um, what are two musts that must be in your refrigerator?
Aside from beer,
That's the beer. That's what you want. It's your choice.
there's
However,
usually a Miller High Life and hummus.
okay. That's what you want. That's important to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, if you could wake up tomorrow with a new talent, what would the new talent be?
Oh, I'd love to be a music composer. If that would have been very nice if I could. I don't have that skill set, but I would like to.
Okay. This is not one of my final questions. It's Lisa Sirota, and she wants to know what your favorite go-to spice is. And that's like Solomon trying to choose from his children, but go for it.
I think there is no one. I mean, there's a handful of things such as, cumin and coriander and fennel and a couple of chili flakes and obviously salt and pepper. There's not one that I could just do just that. It just doesn't work. I think the concept of using spices is my favorite thing. It would be very sad for me not to be able to use spices.
We'd all be sad. Look, you know,
Yeah.
um, ages ago, people used to sew pockets up so they couldn't steal the
Yeah.
salt. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was that and peppers. It was worth more than gold.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, Israel was on a spice route, I think, Naba, Nabateans, Persian Gulf to the
Hmm.
Gaza ports. So, it's spices have traveled the world. Final question. What didn't
Yes.
I ask you that I should have and people should know?
Um, I don't know that there is something that we didn't speak about. I would say this, I'm very excited about something that I've been doing for about 8 years now, which is called the Galilee Culinary Institute. I left Israel to study abroad and always wanted to do something in Israel. The food scene in Israel is incredible. I mean, sadly, we've been going through over a very tough year, but I hope um, we can see the end of it. But we've been working together with Jewish National Fund USA to build the Galilee Culinary Institute that should part of it should be open this spring. A campus with amazing facilities and cooking classroom, auditorium, a restaurant, a beer brewery, a chocolate lab. There's a farm. So I'm very, very proud of the work that we've been doing with the team and can't wait for it to open and have tourism back and people come and visit and learn for a day, a week, a year. So yeah, something that I would love people to know of, and it's coming up.
I had it somewhere in my notes, but I have so many pages that I don't know where, I'm just glancing at. Lior,
Sure.
thank you so, so much for joining us. Uh, it's been great. I can't wait to hit New York and hit Labatt when you open up, and definitely hit Spice Brothers. Was that Spice Brothers because of your two boys?
That's right.
Oh, I do have a quick question for you. In the merch that you're selling, you
Sure.
have a hashtag hat, but it's not like an actual hashtag. There's another line in it. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, so this is our La Boite logo. Back in France, part of the training I did was bread baking, which I still love. I don't get enough time to do. I do have my sourdough that's probably 20 something year old at this point. But most bread, if not all of them, are always scored with a knife or a razor blade. just to allow the bread to expand. There's also a religious kind of aspect to it, of more from the Christian world, of like a cross. So every baker has their kind of own signature. It's a round, it's a square, and I just started with this kind of makeshift pound sign or hashtag, and it kind of stuck. And when I was working on opening La Boite, I kind of went through some old notes and notebooks, and I found this sketch that I did. I was like, oh, this could be a fun little logo for us, and that's how it stuck with us. And yeah, like you said, it's not really a hashtag, it's not really a pound, it's kind of something in between.
Well, thank you for clearing that up for me. I was
Sure.
just food curious about it. I want to thank you. All the best of the holiday season, and have a good week. Thank you
Thank you
so
for having
much,
me.
Lior.
Thank you so much.
My treat, absolutely. Okay, everyone. Feel free to always reach out to me via my email, food@jmoreliving.com, or on Instagram at Dara Cooks. And on Facebook, I do have a page called the Food Enthusiast, which you'll find links to the videos if you're not finding them on JMOR's website page. Next week's guest, it's a redo because we had Dr. Jeannie Jacobs on a couple weeks ago, and the technology just failed us terribly, so we didn't post it. So she's going to be on again, and hopefully people will be able to get to meet her and speak with her through the show. Jeannie is a former doctor. In today's dynamic world, careers pivots are increasingly common. People pivoting in their jobs is increasingly common. Almost every guest on this show started their working lives in a career other than the food and hospitality industry. So when I say millions of workers have changed careers throughout the past several years, it is a reality. We want to have Jeannie on, who is a former OBGYN to now a lifestyle maven. So join in next week for Jeannie Jacobs being on the show. You can sign up for at jmoreliving.com for their free This Week in Baltimore Eating newsletter. Click on Connect on the jmoreliving.com's website and sign up, and they'll send it to you in an email once a week or every other week when they have enough. So it's recipes, etc. And remind you, go to JMOR, go to food, go to recipes, and look up the challah recipe that Lior sent to us for Rosh Hashanah. All shows are immediately archived in video form on JMOR's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. Feel free to go back into our archives and enjoy past shows. As always, may your plates always remain full, and I hope to see you next Thursday.